Good morning. Welcome to Chapter 1. Dr. Scott here. We're going to be discussing globally competitive business environments in the first chapter. Now, during this chapter, what we're going to look at is what will the 21st century corporations look like as things are evolving with technology, different demands and needs in human resource management, staffing, personnel, so forth. What people-related business issues must managers be concerned about? What features will characterize the competitive business environment in the foreseeable future and how we might respond to them? And what people-related problems are likely to arise as a result of changes in the forms of organizations and how we can avoid these problems like succession planning, downsizing, having to do realignment and stuff like that. What are the HR implications of our firm's or your firm's business strategy? Whether you're in the private or public sector, you need to have a strategy, and that strategy, I would argue, needs to be fluid. So let's get started with just some of the things we're going to be looking at in this chapter. Now, we know that new technology and the internet are fueling radical transformations for corporations. It's nothing less than the new industrial revolution, as many scholars are calling it. Now, corporations must adapt themselves to the management via the web or the internet. Base structure on constant change, not rigid hierarchies, meaning that the old way of doing things, that chain of command going up and down this chain, that's pretty much going by the wayside in many corporations, simply because we're working on a global scale now. We've got people that are constantly being recruited and outsourced around the world. Therefore, that chain of command is becoming more flat, or you might have lateral communication between managers and workers. We look at the base structure on constant change as far as shifting partnerships and alliances. We're not looking at self-sufficiency. We want to build on partnerships. Basically, that keyword networking is kind of what we're looking for in human resource management now. We're networking with other companies, parent companies, when we create mergers or when we're looking to join, whether it's temporary or full-time, when we're looking at different departments or different organizations that share common goals, we may merge them together and create job duties either on a temporary or permanent basis. We also want them to be constructed on technological advantages, not bricks and mortars anymore, meaning that, if we build a building, and it's a metaphor, but we're going to basically be looking at the fact that, with technology, things change every day. Okay, what was here 2 years ago is obsolete. What was here even a month ago in some areas would be considered rendered obsolete. So this idea, if you just build it and it's going to stay there forever, you're basically setting yourself up for failure in terms of your management style. Now, more organization charts are looking like webs than pyramids, meaning that old hierarchy pyramid where you have the CEO or chief of police or the mayor, city manager at the top, then you have the council and captains, lieutenants, whatever down. We're building more of a spider web now, meaning that because we might have satellite offices or we might have people doing more than one thing, we have to be, aware or cognizant of the fact that as the industry's changing and the dynamics are changing, as well as the job pool and the specialties are changing, that old hierarchy of doing things isn't going to work anymore. We're focusing on intellectual capital as well. That will be critical to business success and organizations that will need to deepen the talent pool and the kinds of cultures and reward systems to keep the best minds engaged. We want to hire talent, but at the same time, we don't want to break the bank. So what we need to do in terms of management is find things that are going to intrinsically motivate your employees. What's going to attract them, and not just attract them, but keep them in the business. Now, most millennials right now, we know for a fact, average about 5 years in any workplace. Law enforcement's no exception. We know when these guys come into workforce that we're looking at maybe 3 to 5, maybe 7 years, and then they're off to the next best thing, the next shiny thing, or the greener grass, or the next career. And going into a job like that, you might need to, when you're hiring people like that, you may ask yourself, all right, how can we keep them with tuition reimbursement, keep them challenged, keep them motivated? What are we going to do with the natural attrition with people who are eligible to retire that have got their 20, 30 years in, and replace them? Because now your experience and talent's going out the door, and you're trying to, bring people in with little or no experience who might have a lot of book smart or a lot of academics, but don't have the actual tactile experience you need to get the job done. So there's things we have to think about in that regard. Now, it's global. Sorry, I'm losing my spot here. Okay. It's global. It's about speed when we're talking about keeping that intellectual capital and keeping competitive. The global is the company of the future will call on the talent and resources, especially intellectual capital, wherever they can be found. Meaning that we're not recruiting locally anymore. City of Tyler, I know for a fact, city of Longview, we're going to other cities now. Give me an example. My bread and butter right now is law enforcement. I've seen in Dallas, when I'm going to Dallas, when I was going to school for my PhD or when I was up there interviewing for law school, I'm seeing billboards for San Antonio police, Houston police in Dallas. I even saw one out of state, Louisiana or Oklahoma, I forget which one it was, billboards downtown Dallas. All right, so they're basically going beyond the borders, looking to increase their worker base and looking for capital or intellectual capital and talent. It's about speed. If companies are to thrive in the hyper-competitive environment, they must innovate more and faster. Meaning you've got to move quicker. If you throw things on your website, for example, and say, "Hey, we're hiring," you might get 20 or 30 applicants depending on what the job is. Now, that's great. It looks like the pool's full, but then when you start sifting through it, and I know many of you have been there, you start looking at the qualifications, you start looking background checks, which is killing a lot of people on background checks. The applications, they're either exaggerating, lying, or leaving stuff off for whatever reason. Or when you interview them, you find out they look good on paper, but they can't do the job. They don't have the experience or they don't have the snap to do it. So some questions we ask ourselves is, which dimensions of the 21st century prototype model require effective skills in managing people? It's one of the questions we think about. All the dimensions require effective people management skills. However, if one were to select 5 from this grouping that require particularly high skills in managing people, we're looking for inspirational leadership now. We don't want chain of command. We don't want the drill sergeant barking orders. We don't want that 80s, 70s mindset of management, that IBM management, where you come in because I told you to do it, that's the way we're going to do it, because my boss said this, whatever. Those days are kind of going by the wayside because most of your talent pool's not used to that. In fact, I laugh a lot because I still have people in my organization currently that are that old paramilitary mindset where everything's got to go up your chain of command and it's got to be approved by the chief, and then you've got a guy who actually embraces the paramilitary mindset a little too much, and he or she's never served in the military, or when they did, they weren't storming a beach, they weren't a Navy SEAL, they were doing something, that was good, but I think the whole chain of command thing tends to go to people's heads, and it's a good way to deflect responsibility, in my opinion. If I go to my boss with a question or a problem, he says, "Well, let me run up to my boss," and it may sit in his desk or the boss's desk for weeks on end when I need an answer pretty quick. So there's all kinds of things going on here with that whole chain of command thing that I'm not a fan of. We're working in teams. What we're looking for now in our workplace is, I hate to use this term, but team player. It's used to death. Are you a team player? But really what that means in business and in public sector is, can they work with a group of people on a problem? Can egos be checked at the door? Can these guys function in a team no matter what the dynamic of the team is? And if the team changes, can they still do the job? All right. What about different cultures and diversity issues? Are they able to work with people from different backgrounds, different genders, different ethnicities, different sexual orientations? Whatever the team dynamic is, can your person effectively work and accomplish the task, goals, and objectives for whatever's assigned to them? So we're looking for that. Managing structural interdependencies, we want to know that I don't have to sit there and line by line tell someone how to do their job. Okay, believe it or not, we got a bunch of millennials now who want pats on the back for showing up for work every day. Hey, I found the work. I parked my car. I walked in the back door, and hey, do I get a cookie or do I get a treat? We don't need that. We need someone to say, hey, look, you're here, great. Here's today's assignments. This is kind of what I'm looking for. Be creative, come up with a solution, stay within budget, policy, procedures, and the law, and surprise me. It's like I tell I have 5 detectives right now, and a lot of them come to me, on a daily basis. We're looking at different problems and different things. And what's interesting is I tell them all the time, and I know, don't think I'm being crazy, especially to the ladies out there, but I say, look, you're bringing me the labor pains, I want the baby. Okay? Bringing me the labor pains, I want the baby. And what that means is just give me the results. Okay, if there's a problem along the process, or a legal problem, or question, or policy issue, or something we may need to do differently, I'm all for it. But I don't need to know everything line by line what we're doing. Okay, bounce ideas off me, great. We can brainstorm or thought shower. You can't say brainstorm anymore. I was told you guys use thought shower to be politically correct. But ideally, I just want results. And most people, because we're moving too fast, this is choking me. We have too many moving parts in an organization now. It's not just one project. It's multiple projects that have multiple variables in them, and they're moving at the same time. So as a manager, supervisor, a commander, whatever, we're basically looking at the big picture, not focusing on one slice of the pie or one piece of the puzzle. Focusing on customers, or I don't really like that in public service. I mean, the private sector customers are great, but I would say citizens, we're looking at internal, external issues they have. We're trying to be forward thinking about, what's going to service our citizens best. Is there a complaint right now? Is there a problem in the procedure, the problem we do things? Is there a special case that we need to consider? So things like that is what we're looking for. Now we talk about the internet. The internet's a good thing and a bad thing. Okay, emails. How many of you guys like emails? Receiving emails. Years ago, emails were a great form of quick communication. I think we rely on them too much now, especially if you're in the same office, or especially if you have a cubicle and the guys next door, the girls next door. But with internet changing, with conferencing and Skyping and FaceTime, we see that face-to-face communication is actually decreasing. The flow of information will increase, and it will be more current, which will facilitate decision making. However, the increase in information will actually lead to what we call information overload. How many of you guys have a junk email that's constantly full? That's one of the things I really hate, is being on people's mail servers, where I find out someone in another department who I didn't even know existed, don't know this person, but they want to give me a free desk or a free file cabinet, or there's a retirement party for someone who's been here for 1,000 years, and I don't even know this person. To me, that's what we can call information overload, and sometimes it kind of takes away from your time and your focus on what you're trying to be doing. The internet will link corporations or business units around the globe, as it already has, which will make it easier for employees, freelancers, and suppliers to work together. It will also, in the public sector, give us the opportunity to reach out to our clients or to our citizens to get instantaneous feedback. Like with police, we have Crime Stoppers, we have email line, we have Facebook. Facebook's great. Especially in law enforcement, but we can get in immediate, or Twitter, we can get immediate information on problems, and we can get to it as quick as possible. Each organization must find its unique solution to the problem and how best to manage people in a particular context. We're talking about this 21st century prototype model of organizations and how it's going to be successful as we change our approach to managing people. The way we managed people 10 years ago, 20 years ago, totally different now. Like I said, those little baby employees, or what I call them, baby cops, coming into the department, they need that pat on the back. They're used to working in teams or groups. They like out-of-the-box thinking. They want to be directed on what to do to make sure they understand correctly, so they always ask why. Simply not to be insubordinate, but simply because their paradigm, their way of thinking, is they want to know an explanation or a reason as to why we're going in this direction. And I'm okay with that. I've got 5 children, like I said, in the discussion board. My oldest is 11. He's into the why stage. My 8-year-old is the critical thinker in the family. He's into why stage and renegotiate, especially when he's in trouble. He'll try to renegotiate the punishment or make it sound like instead of a felony offense, he'll knock it down to a misdemeanor and explain why it's not a big deal. He's going to be a great lawyer someday, or hopefully not a criminal, but he's very smart. So when we talk about the enterprise, that's the people, we look for a couple main points here. Number one is organizations are managed and staffed by people. All right, without people, we don't have organizations. It's simple. Managing people is the most vital of all resources in the work setting. You need someone who's going to step up and be in charge of the people. And make sure it's the right person. Okay, you can have a human resource manager that's dealing with benefits and FMLA and payroll, and they're important people, okay, because they're basically taking care of the welfare of everyone else. But if you have a supervisor manager that oversees 6, 8, or 100 people, it's critical we have the right person, not just because they can bark orders and they understand policy and they've been there forever, but how are they with people skills? How are they with communication skills? Are they constantly trying to evolve to find better and more innovative and cheaper ways of doing things that'll further the company's or organization's goals, objectives, or mission? Now, the differences among people must be managed in a way that maximizes each person's potential and effectiveness. This falls back on retention. You want to keep people. This day of, well, you're lucky to have a job. You're lucky to work here. No, we're lucky to have them now. Okay, especially if it's a bright talent pool. Now, I'm not saying you bend over backwards and you give them the moon and the keys to your car and everything you can. I mean, there's a limit to the insanity. But you want to have someone who can de-escalate, talk to people, work with them on an individual basis when needed, but also keep morale and the integrity of the organization and group going on a constant basis. Now, managing people, what's critical for every manager is you've got to be concerned with 5 activities. All right, and the chapter talks about this. Number 1 is staffing. All right, are you constantly staffing and putting the right people in the right positions, not just filling holes with warm bodies? Retention. How do you keep your talent? All right. Now, they used to say money was the big driving factor. Well, that's actually number 3 or 4 on the list of the big ones. They're looking for places that, number 1, they have self-worth. They want to feel like they're involved. Number 2, benefits. More people are turning over high-paying jobs for better benefits. Number 3, are they being challenged? All right, do they feel worthwhile? Is their time not being wasted in a job? If they have a degree in something, are they close to that degree, or if it might be something totally different, but they enjoy doing what they're doing, they like the work atmosphere. We have to make adjustments, but you should be developing your people, training them on an ongoing basis, and managing change. Missions change, directions change, organizations change. If you have someone at the wheel that can deal with that change and kind of see what's coming up on the horizon and communicate those potential changes and be excited about it and keep morale up, you need to keep that person as a manager because they're obviously doing something right. We need to identify the work requirements within the organization. All right, who's going to do what, at what time, what's it going to cost us, and how are things going to unfold? And sometimes you might need to change on that. Maybe sometimes you got someone who started out well, but they're not quite getting it, or you find someone who's brand new who can not only do this job, but they're able to multitask, or they've got skills for a different position as well. We talk about recruiting. Recruiting's huge. Recruiting's huge. In law enforcement, we send our recruiters out to various college campuses, high schools. We're putting out different types of job fairs. It's great. It's working. Most places, whether it's law enforcement, fire, city, whatever, they've got a web page now. If you don't have a web page, you better close up shop. All right. The web page needs to be accessible. Applications, detailed job descriptions, everything needs to be listed on there so the potential applicant knows what they're getting into. What I hate seeing right now, and this is just another pet peeve, is a lot of jobs right now are diverting things directly to human resources. Like for example, say my department, law enforcement, we won't get applications until that applicant files an application first. It goes to human resource management. Human resource management gets back to them and then gives them the actual police application. That actually slows up time, and I think that's kind of a job killer simply because that person is someone who's actively looking for a job. They don't have time to wait a week or several weeks for someone in human resource management to pick up an application, either email them back or contact them about a vacancy in a police department. They've already moved on. All right, if there's someone who's really looking for a job, they're going to move pretty quick. Retention, again, rewarding employees for performing their jobs effectively. That pat on the back, that commendation, that attaboy, whatever, you can never have enough of those. All right, I'm going to tell you right now, especially with these millennials, they want that. Even me, I'm a Gen X. I like a good pat on the back. Hey, look, you solved a crime, you got a confession, whatever. I like it. I think it just validates that I didn't waste my time and I'm part of the organization and that what I'm doing here matters. Ensuring harmonious working relationships between employees and managers, maintaining a safe, healthy work environment. Hate to say it, but we got to train our guys on etiquette, harassment, sexual harassment. That is something that needs to be done on a yearly basis. You go back and you review them. You have an open door policy, and I hate using that term but you have a policy where people can come to you about problems, inside the workplace. We look at development. That's a function whose objective is to preserve and enhance employees' competence by improving their knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics, i.e. training. You train them, not just on the current stuff, but on new stuff. Not just, today we're going to learn to do A, B, and C. Well, let's start looking for D, E, F, and G all the way to Z. If there's articles out there and research and other agencies or other organizations are doing it, branch out and see what they're doing and see what's working and what's not working and get these guys excited. Adjustments comprise activities intended to maintain compliance with organizational policies and business strategies. Again, managing change, I make a joke when I'm teaching with the FBI LEDA or I'm teaching at police academies, is there's two things that police and arguably fire hate. And in most organizations, it's the same way. They hate the way things are. We don't like the way things are, but we also hate change. Don't change it, but we hate it. It's a paradox. And everyone, I promise you, everyone in your organization has that, where it's like, well, I don't like the way things are, but if you change it, it could be worse. Even if it's better, oh, no, I'm going to have to learn something, we're going to have to change something. I'd rather just be miserable because I know what I'm getting into. We look at a single event such as an unexpectedly large number of early retirees can affect the whole system. We're talking about a group dynamic. The dynamic changes constantly, and that's okay. If you have an environment where people are coming and going, and that's the norm, not a big deal. But what we're seeing now is we're starting to see a lot of people hit that retirement age or opting to retire early or start a second career, and that can change the entire makeup of an organization or a sector or a division of a company. And you're losing talent, you're losing experience, and you're going to have ebbs and flows in anything. So you want to be cognizant of the fact that, if you start talking to people and you start getting a hint that they might be looking for another job, I always ask them why. What do they want to do? And it could be burnout. It could be, of course, pay. It could be location. It could be, I'm just tired of doing this. I want to try something else. Great. If you have a heads up, now you've got time to find a replacement. It might just be a simple matter of reassigning them or giving them something different to keep them. So again, it's about communicating with your employees and keeping up what's going on. So why does effective HRM matter? Well, there's a strong connection between how firms manage their people and the economic results they achieve. We look for the adoption of high-performance work practices that can have economically significant effect on the market value of a firm. HR systems have an important practical impact on the survival of financial performance of firms, it's in my eye, and on the productivity and quality of life of the people in them. HR kind of sets the tone for the organization, all right? They manage the policies, they of course pay you, they do the hiring, the firing, they look at internal problems. They're kind of like the heart and soul of most organizations. Whether we want to admit that or not, it's just how it is. We've already talked about globalization. But globalization of a business refers to the free movement of capital, goods, services, ideas, information of people across all national boundaries. Doesn't matter if they're in Texas, Canada, Mexico, Europe, Asia, even Antarctica now. Countries and companies and workers have interconnected in ways that have never been seen before. All right, with technology, we're connected. It's simple. It's great. We can move things around. We can share files instantaneously. We've talked about the demographic changes, increasing cultural diversity. Responses of firms to the new competitive realities. We look for the 3 C's in logic: command, control, compartmentalized information that shaped organization structures. In the 19th and 20th century is no longer working. All right, we have to think globally now. All right, command and control is great to a point, but if you push an employee too far, they'll flat out leave. They'll quit. They'll go somewhere. They'll go down the street next door to another city and won't think twice about it. Trends accelerating the shift toward new forms of organization for the 20th century include a shift from vertically integrated hierarchies. Like I said, we're going lateral, not up and down. The decline in routine work, coupled with the expansion of complex jobs that require flexibility, creativity, and the ability to work well with people. Pay tied less to a person's position or tenure in an organization and more to the market value of their skills, meaning that we're not looking at seniority or tenure anymore. We're looking at what skills does this person bring to the table. You might have a 20-year guy here who's done the same job for 20 years, and you get a person that's been out 20 minutes but knows the job quicker, faster, and they have more technology behind them and a lot less experience. but they're able to do the job quicker, you start putting value on that new person. We're changing in the paradigm of doing business from making a product to providing a service, often by part-time or temporary employees. In order to save money, a lot of companies are hiring consultants, contractors to do one or two jobs. They get paid and they move on to the next thing. If you look at like restructuring organizations, consultants that come in and try, like efficiency consultants, TQM, total quality management type of thing, they're paid to come in, clean house, and they may stay there for a year or two, get a project going, and then they're out. We're looking at outsourcing activities. The redefinition of work itself is constant learning, more higher order thinking, less 9-to-5 mentality. Many firms are doing one or more of the following: developing new forms of organizations, restructuring, including downsizing. We might find out that we got 6 people doing the job of 1 or 2, and we realize that we might save ourselves $100,000 or $200,000. And the reason we have this problem is because this is the way we've always done it. That type of mentality is going out the door. Adopting quality management programs and building flexibility into work schedules and rules. Instead of having 9 to 5, you might have 6 a.m. to 2. You might have them, one of the organizations that I'm board chairman on, the Women's Center, is they work, I think it's like 8 to 6, Monday through Friday, then 8 to 12 on Monday through Thursday. And then they work 4.5 hours on Fridays, and they get like an extra weekend or something like that, or working 10-hour shifts. Things that make it easier for the employees to get higher productivity. I'm one of those people where if it were up to me, I don't care when you work, as long as I get 40 hours out of you each week, and at the end of the week there's a product that I'm happy with or an outcome that we've reached, I'm good with it. Okay, we look at the virtual organization, the virtual workplace. Again, it's basically working in teams coming together, and when they're done, they disband. They go on to the next project. They're reassigned. Virtual workplace is simply working remotely, either from home or from another city, using Skype or using some kind of teleconference or video conference to get projects done, sharing files, sharing projects in real time, and working on them. A modular corporation is the basic idea to focus on a few core competencies and then to outsource everything else to the network suppliers. We're looking at collaboratively working with other organizations smoothly with suppliers, real time, again, getting information, updating it, and then choosing the right specialty. And what we mean by that is, does that person fit the job? Are we producing what we're saying we're going to produce? Is the supplier giving us what we need when we need it, and there's no deficiencies or defects in it? All right, we talked about downsizing. The book talks about quality management programs, like the Six Sigma, for example. The University of Texas at Tyler does have the Six Sigma program. It's a certification, but basically it's a program with an effort to make error-free products up to 100% of the time, or what they basically calculated 3.4 defects per million opportunities, which is extremely significant. It's based on 5 steps. We define things, we measure, analyze, improve, and then of course control it. The main value of Six Sigma corporations today lies in the ability to save time and money, which is what we want. All right, well, I have tortured you enough, so I'm going to let you guys go with this part of the chapter. But when you guys get a chance, also look at productivity, what it is, why it's important. When we're talking about productivity, it's basically the measurement of output of goods and services relative to the input of labor, capital, and equipment, not just in the private sector, but we also look in the public sector as well. The quality of life, what is it QWL means, in terms of employees, in terms of management, in terms of the work environment. Business trends and competencies, what we're looking for, like I've talked about, leadership. We're looking at longevity, retention, succession planning. I don't think this chapter lends enough time on succession planning. And kind of get an idea of what the 21st century corporation is looking for. So read over chapter 1, engage in your discussion question for this week. Be sure to take chapter 1 quiz, and I will get the chapter 2 lecture up to you guys in just a little bit. And like I said, it's 6:41 in the morning, so it's a little early for me, so I'm going to go get my first cup of coffee and see what my day has for me. I've enjoyed meeting most of you guys. Like I said, there's a few more people that have just joined us, so I think we got 6 in this cohort total, or 6 in this program for this class, which is a good number. Later today or tonight, I will have your design or outline for your research paper up and running, as well as a lecture for chapter 2. So you guys have a great day. I know some of you are probably still in bed, so when you see this, remember this phase. It's early. I'm trying to get you guys going here. and you guys have a great day. Be safe.